everyone, my name is Julia Bellion, and today I will be talking about the Israeli novelist and short story and essay writer Amos Oz. Amos Oz, or otherwise known as Amos Klausner, was born on May 4th, 1939. He was born in Jerusalem in the Mandatory Palestine era. He was the only child of two parents who were very extreme right-wing Zionists who spoke many different languages. However, even though they spoke so many languages, Oz was only allowed to speak Hebrew. His parents emigrated to Israel in the early 1930s from Poland and Russia, and due to a lot of his family members dying in the Holocaust when he was 12 years old, his mother was very depressed and ended up committing suicide. This traumatic event would later help influence a lot of his work. Starting from a young age, Amos knew that he didn't agree with his father's political views. And that being the case, when he was 15 years old, he rebelled against his father's ways and decided to change his name and leave Jerusalem to live in the kibbutz Huldah. This is where he completed more of his education. After he completed his secondary education, he served in the Israeli army. He served in the Israeli army from 1957 to 1960, and then again in 1967 and 1973. After serving in the war, he went back to the kibbutz, and the kibbutz sent him back to Jerusalem to study at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. After university, he went back to the kibbutz and spent his time writing and farming. However, when he first started writing, he was only allotted 1 day a week to work on it. But when he started becoming more successful, he was eventually allotted 3 days. He also taught at the kibbutz schools for 25 years. In terms of his political affiliations, after he left his parents, he became a labor Zionist. Labor Zionists are more left-wing and essentially believe that a Jewish state was only created because of the efforts of the Jewish working class. However, after fighting in the Six-Day War, he joined the Israeli peace movement and presented the idea of the two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He wanted them to compromise based on mutual recognition and coexistence. He was also involved in the Committee for Peace and Security, a lot of Moked and Shali movements, and was among the chief spokesmen of the Peace Now movement since its founding. Furthermore, in 2003, he was one of the leaders of the Geneva Initiative, an Israeli-Palestinian peace movement, and in 2008, he founded the New Movement. He was a very politically accomplished man that did a lot to emphasize the need for peace in his communities all throughout his life. In terms of his work, he was an Israeli novelist and a writer of short stories and essays. Over the course of his lifetime, he was the author of 40 books and 450 articles and essays. However, not only did he write books, he also translated them into 30 to 45 different languages. It is thought that he did this because his parents had spoken so many languages when he was a child, and he wanted to show them that he could speak that many languages now, even though they only let him speak Hebrew. He wrote a lot about his opinions of the government and a lot of symbolic novels that reflected the hardships of Israeli culture. These hardships included Zionism in general and the two wings of it, Israel's desire for European urbanity and just modernizing their culture, and safety in general. He felt that he was unable to share a positive outlook and instead presented more of an ironic view of Israel's culture. His first book was written in 1965, and it was called Where the Jackals Howl and Other Stories. Some of his other fictional works include My Michael, Touch the Water, Touch the Wind, Black Box, and A Tale of Love and Darkness. A Tale of Love and Darkness was published after he died, though, and it was more of a tribute to his life. He was also famous for editing The Seventh Day, which was a collection of reflections from soldiers that served in the Six-Day War. Some of his more political essays include Under the Blazing Lights but these are two different wars. He was also famous for those as well, where he would speak his opinion more on politics and what he honestly thought. In terms of his personal life, Oz was very open about his personal life in his works. He discussed it frequently, and it became less of a taboo subject. He met his wife, Nellie Zuckerman, in the kibbutz, and they were friends for a very long time, but they got married in 1960. They had 3 children together, 1 son and 2 daughters. The son's name was Daniel Oz, and the 2 daughters were Phania and Galia, which I'm really sorry if I butchered their names. After Oz's death from cancer in 2018, Galia Oz published a memoir describing Oz's behavior towards her. She described his behavior towards her as abusive and careless, and described how he would constantly tell her that she was worthless, and she was absolutely worth nothing. This memoir later divided the Oz family. However, during the children's life, the Oz family all lived in the kibbutz together, until Daniel developed asthma and they had to move. The doctor told Oz that the asthma would be okay in a place that had mountain air. So they had to think of a place that would have mountain air and decided to move to the Negev. The Negev is where Oz found his job as a professor of Hebrew literature that he would have for a very long time at the Ben Gurion University of the Negev. However, back to the memoir that Galia wrote on Oz, it was later found multiple years later that a lot of family members were denying these possible allegations, and even though people want to believe them, it is also found that they might be doing that just to respect his name and make sure his name goes down in grace and just silence her, which is unacceptable. In terms of his awards and honors, he was a visiting fellow at St. Cross College, Oxford, the author in residence at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and was in residence at the Colorado Springs College in America. Furthermore, in 1991, he was elected a full member of the Academy of the Hebrew Language. He was also awarded 27 different awards throughout his lifetime. For example, in 1992, he was awarded the German Friedensprix. In 1998, he was awarded Israel's most prestigious prize, the Israel Prize for Literature. And in 2005, he was awarded the Goethe Prize. He was also awarded the French Cross of the Knight of the Legion d'Honneur. He was also awarded the Norwegian Authors Union Freedom of Expression Prize, the Ovidius Prize by the Romanian Union of Writers, the Die Welt Literary Prize, the Prince of Asturias Award for Letters, and the Dan David Prize. You could say that Amos Oz's work definitely didn't go unnoticed through his many awards that he was awarded throughout his lifetime. However, he definitely deserved all of these awards because of his amazing work that he put out across the span of so many years. In conclusion, Amos Oz was a definitely very accomplished man. Between his political involvement in search for peace between Israel and Palestine, his many essays and novels, about 200 something in total, and his awards that he definitely deserved, he was a very well-rounded individual. He was a great role model for the Jewish community in showing that even though his upbringing was not that great, he ended up being a very successful person and ended up having a great family and just really making an impact on the Jewish community and writing about Israeli culture and just putting a great, he will always be remembered. Thank you for listening.